Bleacher Report is proposing a trade today, and they throw out a lot of trades, but this one is Deebo Samuel, J.P. Mason, a 2025 second in April, and then next year's second to the Steelers for T.J. Watt. Now, I'm doing that in a heartbeat. I mean, I'm not even thinking about that one because the Garrett thing is going to cost you an awful lot. The T.J. Watt this guy is just a crazy warrior of a player. I mean, he's just so intense that I want that kind of player on my defensive front seven no matter what. And Deebo's done. And J.P. Mason, there's so many good backs in this draft. He's so replaceable. And you're going to get T.J. Watt for a receiver that's done, a replaceable running back, and a couple second-round picks. I'm doing that trade all day, every day. If that was Omar Khan, I mean, John Lynch ought to just absolutely run over and just say, yes, bring T.J. Watt here. Six-time All-Pro, 11 and a half sacks or more in 6 of the last 7 years. Yes, T.J. Watt.
Here are questions I have for Bleacher Report. One, why would the Steelers trade T.J. Watt?
Right.
2, why would any team want Deebo Samuel? And we'll get to that in a second. And then 3, isn't J.P. Mason a restricted free agent? How are you going to trade him? So all that aside, let's talk about Deebo for a second, because Deebo is the interesting one. I mean, Spot Track listed him as like a trade candidate. I think that's a very interesting topic all offseason because you'd like to trade Deebo. You don't really need Deebo anymore. He's maybe 3rd on the depth chart at wide receiver. And when Ayuk comes back, he could be 4th if Ricky Pearsall continues to play the way he did the last 2 weeks. Who's looking at Deebo and saying, I want him at this point? I mean, he's 29. He's expensive. He's not particularly a good route runner. He drops passes a lot. He complains when he doesn't get the ball.
Durability
I'd love
issues.
to know what the market is for Deebo. Maybe it exists because it existed last year.
Struck his teammate in the throat. You know, he's the captain of the team, but he buried the kicker verbally on the field in the middle of a game.
I mean, did they say they're not going to trade Deebo because they can't trade Deebo? Is that what's going on? I mean, are the Niners excited to bring him back?
Shanahan was asked about this, right? And didn't Shanahan say, hey, we're not in the business of giving away guys?
Lynch said that.
Or was it Lynch that said that?
Yeah. Okay, then trade
We're
him.
not in the business of giving away guys. So I think somebody asked if Deebo was, I don't know, did somebody say if Deebo going to get cut?
No, because they just said like, oh, we're going to cut Javon Hargrave. And someone was like, so what about Deebo? And Lynch was like, what? Well,
Deebo
he's
under
too,
contract.
Right?
We're not in the business of giving away good players.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he's totally available. I just think that they understand that they have to find another receiver. I mean, a major, we can talk about the Higgins thing right here if you want for a second here.
Yeah, let's do that.
The Higgins trade rumor, I know everybody and their brother immediately was like, nope, poo-pooed it, not going to happen, too costly, to this, to that. But let's be honest with ourselves and really take a look at this. Brandon Ayuk's injury is serious. Okay.
He may not be explosive when he comes back,
Right. He's going, I mean, okay. ACL, MCL, meniscus. He had all 3. And so, first of all,
what made him special was 17 yards a catch, like a downfield threat. I don't know if he's like that anymore.
Right. So, okay, so you got a couple things at work here. One, is he coming back? Okay, let's say he is. When? When is that going to be? I would say realistically, you could not expect him back before Thanksgiving.
No, because Talanoa Hufanga tore his ACL only mid-season and wasn't ready for week 1. So you'd have to think he'd be a month or 2 after that.
I would say week 10. It's a week 10.
And really, if he's not even coming back till November, December, then he won't be Ayuk because he won't have the whole offseason. What you're going to get is a shell of Ayuk for maybe a month or 2 next year.
Yeah. And he was diminished. First of all, he wasn't the same player that he was 2 years ago, last year. Then he just suffered a crushing injury. It's naive to think
offseason to get into that shape.
And it's naive to think that he's just not going to be diminished off that. I mean, I'm not hoping that on him. I hope he gets full recovery. But when you have that kind of an injury, there's a very good likelihood that he's going to be somewhat diminished. So you have a receiver that you paid big money to. He's probably going to be diminished, and you're probably not going to have him for a good portion of this year, and he's probably not going to be at whatever he is full tilt for another year. So put a line through Ayuk, even though he's still on the team. You have Deebo coming off of a disastrous year. You have Pearsall, who was a total no-show until like the last couple of games of the year. You have Cowing, who's yet to establish himself, and you have JJ, who's got a heart of a lion, but he's still has that 4.6, 4.7 type speed. So you don't have a receiver, really. You definitely don't have scary receivers. I would say you compare yourself to Philly. They have better receivers. Buffalo's receivers aren't great, but they're better than yours. And, Baltimore's receivers aren't great, but they're better than yours. And seriously, everybody has better receivers than you do. So that receiver situation is dicey, because then I looked at the draft, and I just been studying the draft for the last 2 weeks. Grant, this is not the year to draft a wide receiver. I mean, the best wide receiver in Mobile is this guy Tez Johnson from Oregon. He's 155 pounds, and he looks like he would like he would go to Jacob Cowing for protection. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like he's really, really, really tiny. And this is not a good receiver draft unless Teteroa McMillan, Cowing's teammate at Arizona, miraculously fell to 11, which is possible. Then you got a great receiver, but you can take a receiver at 11. You're going to go receiver in the first round in back-to-back years when you have all kinds of needs all over the place on both sides of the line of scrimmage. So this T. Higgins idea, even though it might be prohibitive, that if you want to get an impactful receiver, that's probably the way to do it. I mean, it's not going to come in the draft most likely. Garrett Wilson might be available via trade, but that's going to cost you some draft capital. T. Higgins, I mean, if you're going to get Brock Purdy for less money, if I'm Brock Purdy's agent, I'm not taking less money unless you can tell me that you're going to go, spend that money on a great receiver or a great offensive lineman. So maybe if they got it done with Purdy, maybe he takes less to give them some room to go get Higgins. But to me, I would not, downplay the Higgins rumor, because to me, that makes perfect sense. It's not a great receiver free agent market beyond him. It's a bad receiver draft.
Okay, let's bring it back to the original topic, TJ Watt. How about this? Instead of trading Deebo for TJ Watt, because I don't think anyone wants Deebo anymore. I could be wrong. Prove me wrong, NFL. What about Ayuk? They wanted Ayuk last year. They really wanted Ayuk last year. And I know massive, massive knee injury, but who would you rather have? Ayuk after a massive knee injury or Deebo Samuel right now?
The only thing about that is that the same issue that the Niners would have becomes a bigger issue if you're trading for him, does it not? If you're going to trade TJ Watt, the heart and soul of your defense, to the 49ers, and you're getting Brandon Ayuk, don't you want Brandon Ayuk to be there week one? And there's no chance he's there.
Well, Jordan Mason too.
Yeah. Well, maybe Jordan. Well, they may lose Najee Harris in free agency, so they may look at JP Mason.
Jordan Mason will be a good fit for them. Yeah, he'd be. He would
be a good fit there.
He'd be a real good fit. And again, I think if they just give him a tender, then they can trade him. So I think they could work it. It could work. Right. And again, I don't know about
third round tender.
What about Ayuk? And then back to Higgins, I could see Kyle Shanahan wanting T. Higgins. That's the kind of X receiver that he would love. He's arguably better than Brandon Ayuk anyway, although he does have his own injury issues. He misses about 5 games a year with the hamstring injury, but still, that's not like meniscus, ACL, MCL.
I don't think the TJ Watt deal is a doable deal. I agree with you. But if Higgins were available, I would make that move, because I really think that, the Niners could build up both their O-line, D-line, do everything. But if they wind up next year and it's week 1 and they've traded Deebo and they don't have Ayuk and they're starting Ricky Pearsall and Juwan Jennings, it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be a real struggle. They need another receiver. And I don't know who it's going to be.
Ricky Pearsall?
I like Ricky Pearsall. Especially late in the year. I liked what I saw there. I liked how serious he is. The way I think about it
is like Kittle is the number 1 receiver, and like Jennings and Pearsall are 2 and 3. And if you look at them as a trio, It's not bad. I mean, Kittle's one of the better receivers in the league, regardless of position.
Kittle's great.
Kittle's great.
The Niners, that's another, everywhere we look, though, we're talking about another need. Now, they don't have a backup tight end. I mean, I think they ought to just cut all those tight ends behind Kittle and just start fresh. I mean, this is a great tight end draft. I think they need a couple tight ends out of this draft. So let's talk about the draft. Let's hit the next topic here, which is what should the Niners do if they stay at 11 over in the draft?